Loving Sai Ram and greetings from Prashanti Nilayam. As just announced, we are now into the Ayodhya Kandam, and when I broke off last time, I was telling you about Bharata coming back to Ayodhya from his grandfather's kingdom after he received a sudden summons. And when he arrives, he learns, much to his horror, that not only has his father died suddenly, but also that Rama, along with Lakshmana and Sita, have gone away on exile on account of a cunning power ploy by his mother Kaikeyi. Bharata immediately faints, and even as he was coming back to consciousness, sage Vasishta appears on the scene. Let me pick up from there. Speaking gently, Vasishta said to Bharata, "O illustrious prince, your grief is perfectly understandable. But when duty calls, one must set aside even unbearable grief. Your father's funeral is long overdue, and performing it must be your first priority." Snapping into action, Bharata then promptly gave instructions to have the body of his late father removed from the vessel of oil where it had been stored thus far, and make all preparations necessary for the final journey. Even as the various arrangements were being made, Vasishta whispered to Bharata, "Everyone's eyes would now be on you. It is therefore your duty to remain calm and be in full control of your emotions. You must set an example to all the others. Such is the discipline expected of a prince, especially one belonging to the Ikshvaku race. Remember that." So that was the silent advice whispered by Vasishta to Bharata. A funeral procession was soon organized, and after all the near and dear paid their last respects to the departed monarch by going round the body thrice, the body was placed on an elaborately decorated bier and carried to the cremation spot near the Sarayu river. A huge crowd followed, some on foot and others in chariots in the sequence required by protocol. A portion of the sacred fire maintained in the royal palace was specially carried in a pot, using which Bharata finally lit the pyre. As the mortal remains of Dasaratha were consumed by fire and his gross body returned to the elements in full accord with the scriptural injunctions, the huge crowd wept and bade a tearful farewell. Finally, it was all over, and silently the mourners all returned to Ayodhya, each with his or her own fond memories of the past and a personal burden of grief as well. It was the 12th day after cremation, the rituals of the day being dominated by the giving of gifts to ensure the welfare of the departed soul in the life beyond. Came then the 13th day, when the curtain would come down on the main obsequies, and it started with Bharata collecting bones from the ashes for subsequent immersion in the Sarayu river. It was a painful moment for Bharata and Shatrughna, and overwhelmed by grief, both collapsed to the ground. However, gaining strength from the kind and soothing advice given by sage Vasishta as well as Sumantra, they managed to complete the prescribed rituals and return to the royal household. Bharata's mind now became focused once more on Rama, and even as he was contemplating going to the forest to meet his exiled brother, Manthara came to the palace bedecked with jewels in order to meet Kaikeyi. Seizing her, the palace guard immediately handed her over to Shatrughna. Boiling with fury on seeing the hunchback, Shatrughna began dragging and violently assaulting Manthara, even as the wretch wailed and screamed in pain. Hearing the noise and commotion, Kaikeyi appeared on the scene, and when she started pleading on behalf of Manthara, Shatrughna roundly abused her. It was the timely intervention of Bharata who gently reminded Shatrughna that the scriptures did not permit the killing of women that saved the hunchback. On the morning of the 14th day, the royal councillors approached Bharata and requested him to assume the reins of the kingdom, since the country could not afford to be without a ruler. Responding to them, Bharata said, "In this kingdom, it has always been the eldest son who ascended the throne when the ruler passed away. So it shall be even now. I shall seek out Rama and persuade him to return. And on his behalf, I shall spend 14 years in the forest. Kindly get everything ready and make all preparations needed for us to go in search of Rama and consecrate him as the new ruler in the forest itself." Highly pleased with the reply, the councillors showered praise on Bharata and blessed him. As advised by the councillors and ministers, a big task force then began making a broad passage or something of a road from Ayodhya all the way to the banks of the Ganga. Meanwhile, sage Vasishtha had, in the early hours of the morning, already initiated various religious rites preparatory to the consecration of Bharata as the new ruler. Following this, there were ceremonial drum beats and the blowing of conches by way of announcing to one and all the news of the impending consecration of Bharata. Taken aback by these totally unexpected sounds, Bharata came out and immediately put a stop to the festivities. Unaware of the decision Bharata had made, sage Vasishtha ordered that Bharata and Shatrughna should be fetched immediately to the royal assembly hall. Vasishtha being the preceptor of the dynasty, Bharata obeyed the elder's command and presented himself in the court. Speaking in a kind and gentle voice, sage Vasishtha said to Bharata, "My child, your father has ascended to heaven, and the kingdom is now without a ruler. Before he died, the late emperor bequeathed the rulership to you. It is only appropriate that you get consecrated now and start ruling forthwith. The requisite preliminary rituals have already been completed, and you are aware that the country has been without a ruler for a long period. Now that you are here and the funeral formalities have all been duly completed, we must not allow any further delay." Bharata was shocked and stunned to hear sage Vasishtha speak in this manner. Unable to contain his surprise, he asked in a voice choked with grief, "O wise one, this kingdom belongs to Rama. In the Ikshvaku dynasty, it has always been the eldest son who succeeded a ruler when he passed away. When Rama is there, how can I commit a heinous sin by taking the kingdom that is rightfully his? If I did so, I would bring disgrace to this noble race. I am determined to seek Rama and beg him with folded palms to return." Bharata's firm resolve pleased the assembly, and everyone present shed tears of joy. Not wanting to lose a moment, Bharata then said to Sumantra, who was nearby, "Please arrange for the entire convoy to get ready for departure immediately." Seeking Vasishtha's approval, Bharata then continued, "And kindly ensure that there is a chariot for me also, for it is I who has to make that prayer to Rama." Early next morning, Bharata rode out of the capital, accompanied not only by a big army and the rest of the royal paraphernalia, but also the 3 queens, each in a separate chariot. Traveling all day and covering a long distance, by nightfall, they approached the bank of Ganga and halted at a spot not far from Sringaverapura, where Guha lived. While the army encamped, Bharata entered the river to offer oblations to his departed father. News of Bharata's arrival soon reached Guha, who then assembled his tribesmen and said, "Bharata has come with a big army, and we have to find out what that means. If his intentions are evil and Bharata has come mainly to attack Rama, then we have to be very careful and be fully ready to help Rama. On the other hand, it might well be that his motives are absolutely honorable, in which case we are obliged to render every possible assistance to him. I suggest, therefore, that we assemble some ferrymen and some troops, go forward to where Bharata is, and cautiously explore what exactly the situation is." So saying, and taking with him some sweets, honey, and fruits as offering, Guha proceeded along with his mates to the river, where Bharata was camping. Sumantra saw Guha approaching along with a big group, and immediately alerted Bharata by saying, "Guha is coming to see you. He knows this region very well, and I am sure he also knows where exactly Rama is. It would therefore be wise to welcome him so that he can be of help to us." Bharata responded, "Sir, I appreciate your advice. Please bring Guha to me at once." And when Bharata received Guha with great warmth, Guha responded by formally welcoming Bharata into his territory and extending all the due courtesy. Bharata then said to Guha, "Dear friend, I want to establish contact with Rama as soon as possible. And to know where Rama is, I have to first get in touch with sage Bharadwaja. I gather that there are 2 routes to the ashram of the holy sage. Which of these do you recommend?" Guha replied, "Don't worry about reaching Bharadwaja's ashram, for my ferryman would help you to cross the river and actually take you to the hermitage. In fact, I too shall follow you. But meanwhile, may I respectfully ask, what is it that you want of Rama?" Heaving a big sigh, Bharata replied, "Right now, Ayodhya is without a king. Rama is its rightful ruler, but he has gone away to the forest. That is simply not acceptable, and I am going to meet him in order to take him back to Ayodhya. It is that mission that has brought me here." Guha was deeply moved. Not only did his suspicions melt away, but instantly he became most respectful to Bharata. In a voice choked with emotion, Guha said, "How blessed are you to be filled with such noble thoughts. Indeed, it's difficult to find on this earth one who is willing to sacrifice an entire kingdom that has been given to him, so that he could bring back his brother from exile. Night has fallen, and I suggest that you 2 brothers rest, since there is a long journey ahead tomorrow. Have no worries, for while you are sleeping, my men and I shall stand in guard. Rest well." Bharata did try to rest, but since bottled up grief prevented sleep, he began chatting with Guha and said, "Guha, you spent some precious time with Rama and others before they crossed the river and disappeared into the forest. Tell me all you remember about that meeting." With a sigh, Guha replied, "You know, soon after Rama and Sita lay down to rest on the grassy mattress hastily prepared for them by Lakshmana, I improvised one more such mattress made of dried grass and asked Lakshmana to sleep on it, while I stood guard. Lakshmana flatly refused, asking me how he could sleep when he, who should have been the king, was lying on the ground. Lakshmana was so upset that he feared that both Dasharatha and Kausalya would breathe their last that very night due to pangs of separation. Thus it was that Lakshmana sat up all night doing guard duty. Next morning, we arranged for the three to be ferried across the Ganga to the other side. Unable to hear the news that Rama had to sleep on the ground, Bharata fainted, causing Shatrughna and Kausalya to rush to his side and lift him. Hugging Bharata and shedding tears, Kausalya lamented, "Oh, my dear child, I hope nothing serious has happened to you. With Rama gone, I am surviving by taking strength from your presence. In fact, the whole kingdom depends on you. I hope you did not hear any bad news about Rama that made you faint." Thanks to the attention received, Bharata regained consciousness, and the moment he did so, he turned to Guha and asked, "Please tell me what Rama ate that night he spent here, and also point out to me the exact spot where he rested." Guha then described how Rama refused all the tasty food that he, namely Guha, had prepared, and instead observed a fast after taking a few sips of water brought by Lakshmana from the Ganga. Thereafter, Lakshmana prepared a resting place on the ground for Rama and Sita and covered it with grass. Taking them all to a nearby tree, Guha pointed out to a spot near the foot of the tree and said, "This is the exact spot where Rama and Sita rested. In fact, this is the very grass on which they lay that night, right under the starry sky." Carrying his bow and his quiver full of arrows, Lakshmana moved about looking around carefully for any sign of potential danger, while I stood some distance away, also doing guard duty. Hearing all this and staring at the spot where Rama had earlier rested, Bharata shook his head and said to himself, "I just can't believe this. Here was this prince, used to royal luxury and accustomed to being awakened every morning in a ceremonial manner with Vedic chants, music, and rhythmic beatings of drums, and all the rest of it. And such a one had to sleep here, on the hard, bare ground, under a tree in a forest? Am I dreaming, or is it all true? If it indeed is true, then as the one who, though unwittingly, has been the cause of it all, I am ruined. Oh, how lucky was Lakshmana to have been here standing guard. From this day onwards, I too shall lie either on bare ground or on a grass bed. I too shall wear the bark of trees and have my hair matted like sages do, and dwell in a hut in the forest along with my brother Shatrughna for 14 years, the period stipulated for Rama's exile. Only after I complete my own exile shall I return to Ayodhya. I do hope and pray that Rama agrees to return right away. If he refuses, then I shall simply join him and remain with him in the forest. That is my resolve." When dawn broke, Bharata thanked Guha and requested him to help with the crossing of Ganga. Unlike Rama's crossing, this time the task was a massive one, since an entire army had to be ferried across. However, Guha made excellent arrangements by lining up hundreds of boats, some of them big enough to carry even big bullock carts. And so the entire party, led by Bharata and Shatrughna, crossed the river safely, including the three queen mothers, sage Vasishtha, and all the Brahmanas. As for the royal elephants, yes, there were many in the convoy. They just swam across, carrying their mahouts on their backs. Once on the other side, the party headed towards Prayag, where sage Bharadwaja's ashram was located. Aware that great sages value privacy, Bharata, with abundant caution, instructed the army to camp several miles away. That done, Bharata led a small group consisting of himself, Shatrughna, the three queens, and of course sage Vasishtha and the Brahmanas, all of whom then proceeded on foot to sage Bharadwaja's ashram. Seeing sage Vasishtha walking towards his hermitage, sage Bharadwaja was absolutely thrilled and rushed to greet him. Folding the great rishi in a fond embrace, Bharadwaja then extended a hearty welcome to Bharata and the rest of the group. The revered sage was aware that Dasaratha was no more and therefore did not make any inquiries about him. However, he did inquire about the welfare of all the rest. For their part, sage Vasishtha and Bharata responded with kind inquiries of their own, which covered not only the sage and his disciples, but also the trees, the birds, and the deer. The greetings and the welcome formalities over, sage Bharadwaja asked, Bharata, I thought you would be busy in Ayodhya ruling the kingdom. What brings you here? I trust your motives for coming here are honorable and that you do not have any intentions of harming Rama further. Bharata was shocked, for these were hardly the words he expected from a sage who was supposed to know everything. Pouring out his anguish, he cried, O Holy One, if even you suspect me of harboring evil intentions, then there is no redemption for me and I am utterly ruined. I swear to you that I have come for the sole purpose of begging Rama to return to Ayodhya and ascend the throne that rightfully belongs to him and no one else. All I ask from you, O venerable sage, are directions to go to the place where Rama is now. Sage Bharadwaja smiled and replied, Bharata, through the use of my yogic power, I know precisely why you have come here. And yet, if I asked you a provocative question, it was merely to help you to redouble your determination to bring Rama back to Ayodhya. I know where Rama is staying, and be assured that I shall direct you how to go there. However, that can wait till tomorrow. Right now, I want all of you to rest here for the night. I trust you would accept my suggestion and give me the pleasure of playing host to you and your party, at least for a brief period. Much relieved to hear that the sage in fact had a very high opinion of him, Bharata instantly agreed to halt Bharadwaja in Bharadwaja's ashram for the night. The sage then asked, Bharata, I know that you have come along with your army, but I do not see the soldiers here. Where are they? Bharata replied, Swami, you know what soldiers could be like. Not wanting to disturb the peace of the ashram, I asked them to camp some distance away. Bharadwaja replied that he understood Bharata's point of view. However, it was his duty nevertheless to extend hospitality to them also. Bharata should therefore order the army to come to the heritage at once. And even as Bharata was giving orders to that effect, using the powers gained via his tapas, sage Bharadwaja invoked various deities and celestial denizens to immediately create in the vicinity of the ashram not only a huge and beautiful forest full of everything one could desire, but also a fabulously furnished royal palace, complete with all the conveniences and services, indeed the kind of luxuries that a pampered king could want. Thanks to the power of the Rishi's tapas, everything that the sage visualized materialized instantly, with every bit of the hospitality arrangements being truly out of the world. Even the horses, the elephants and the bullocks in the royal party were well provided for. So thorough and complete were Bharadwaja's arrangements. Thereafter, the sage welcomed everyone to the magically created palace, inviting them to enjoy the numerous luxuries it provided, including the food and entertainment. Understandably, barring a small minority, almost everyone became happily lost in the pleasures offered, almost to the point where they forgot why they were in the forest, and what brought them to the hermitage of sage Bharadwaja. In sharp contrast, Bharata and the members of his family, as also sage Vasishtha and his Brahmana group, religiously avoided all the revelry, spending the night thinking solely of Rama. When morning came and it was time to leave, most of the members of Bharata's party were in a state of stupor, having indulged themselves to an excess. However, alert as ever and anxious to move on, Bharata approached sage Bharadwaja, seeking permission to leave. Greeting Bharata with a smile, the sage inquired, as was the custom, whether the hospitality provided was adequate and whether everyone was satisfied and happy. Thanking and praising the sage for all the trouble he had taken, Bharata came straight to the point and respectfully sought precise directions for going to where Rama had settled down. Even as the sage was giving detailed instructions, the three queens, who were all in their respective chariots ready to leave, came down, went to the sage, and offered their respectful salutations. Although the sage knew who they were, he nevertheless said to Bharata, "Can you tell me something about your mothers?" Somewhat perplexed by the query, Bharata nevertheless gave brief but generous thumbnail sketches first of Kausalya and then of Sumitra. However, when it came to Kaikeyi, his own mother, he spoke in harsh and derogatory terms. Gently rebuking Bharata, sage Bharadwaja said, "Child, it is not appropriate for you to denounce your own mother in this fashion. What you believe to be Rama's banishment is a divinely ordered event that in the end would bring good to all, including the Devas, the Rishis, and even the Rakshasas. That outcome might not be apparent at this point of time, but one day you would realize the truth of my observation." Bharata acknowledged his error and after going around the sage 3 times in a clockwise direction, fell at his feet, sought his blessing, and took leave. The entire party then left, led as earlier by Bharata. After travelling for a long time and covering much distance in the process, the convoy finally spotted a mountain range covered with beautiful forests that stretched down all the way to the foothills. Feeling that this is where Rama might possibly be, Bharata ordered a few military scouts to go into the woods and look for signs of human habitation. Soon they came back with the report that in one spot they saw smoke rising in the sky, which meant that there was some human habitation in that region. Reacting to the report, Bharata said to his troops, "It seems as if the spot located by you is where Rama has settled down. I want all of you to camp right here, while Sumantra, me, and a few others would go forward and explore." At that very moment, unaware of the huge convoy that was close by, Rama and Sita were immersed in enjoying the glories of nature and the beauty of the forest where they are settled down. And even as they were so engaged, Rama suddenly noticed a huge dust cloud rising in the sky, caused of course by the camping army of Bharata. Besides, Rama also observed that the animals of the forest were running somewhat wild here and there, as if a big group of intruders had invaded the preserve. Summoning Lakshmana, Rama said, "Brother, I see some commotion among the animals of the forest. Clearly they have been disturbed. Can you find out what the cause of the disturbance is?" I think I shall stop here for this week, and I hope you would join me again for the next installment of this great epic. Goodbye for now, and God bless. Jai Sai Ram.